Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Moses Kotane Institute virtual Friday lecture. Today, we were supposed to be looking at women in technology from Ms. Dinigo from Girl Code SA. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, she is not available to take this lecture. However, I will be presenting today innovation and leadership and looking at the public sector space to see how then do these two infuse and how are we looking at innovation and leadership given the fourth industrial revolution and perhaps the fifth industrial revolution as the emerging technologies are continuing disrupting industries, disrupting sectors, and public sector is not immune to any of those. Let's firstly look at the public sector innovation. I mean, public sector is not really known for innovation. It is a space where things have been done the way it has been done. It is very structural in the way it operates. There's very rigid processes within the public sector. So therefore, innovation is a very foreign concept when you look at public sector. So how then do you introduce innovation within the public sector space, given the sharp curve that COVID-19 has also shown to us in terms of leapfrogging the public sector to the fourth industrial revolution. The public sector innovation depends on input from a range of sources. That is an important tool for improving policy and service delivery. Tools like strategy, visions, adoption of new corporate paradigms are key in achieving innovation, therefore turning around our public sector innovations. I think the important is about policy and policy making. How then do we become agile in the way that government create and develop policy, and how do we therefore as government provide service delivery to the people at a pace that is now required with the tools such as strategies and visions that are underpinned by innovation given the space that we are currently operating on. And therefore, let's look at what is leadership in terms of a public service. What is government? I mean, we are looking at governments around the world making innovation statements. Everywhere you go, you hear about agile policies, you hear about restructuring, you hear about transformation, and they all talk about innovation, not necessarily mentioning it as in its sense. Enabling leaders to manage tension that is created by the administrative side of things. As I indicated, public sector is very rigid in admin, and therefore, how then do you bring in innovation? How then do you bring change? How then do we transform the public service as leaders of public service, as high up the hierarchical leaders who have been used in having administrative roles, and without actually looking at how then do we innovate. And we talk about change and change management. It has been documented and it has been done like it used to be done. How then do you bring change so that the public service is on par with the rest of other sectors in taking advantages of these emerging technologies? And then there are two types of leaders that were long looked at already by 2001 by the OECD, as they looked at the environment at the time, and they could tell that it did require a new type of a leader within the public service. I mean, there has been a growing need to address the interconnectedness problems in public policy. I will make an example with the issue of the birth certificate, unabridged birth certificates. That policy came through with the Department of Home Affairs. That was something new. It was reintroduced, but then it had some negative impact on tourism. So meaning the way we look at public policy and how we innovate around public policy, already there's a need to look at how we interconnect all the problems within public sector so that the policies that are created by and approved by public leaders are talking to the issues on the ground, not just addressing one issue, meaning that each department or each municipality does not look at its problems straight up challenge, but they had to look at the interconnected, and that's where innovation allows it. Look at open innovation. How then do policy embrace the idea of innovation so that we understand that those challenges, those interconnected problems, talk to innovation and leads to a good public policy debate, good public policy making processes. Again, we're looking at knowledge-intensive economy, and public sector call for a new type of leaders that inspire others to create and share knowledge. We're talking about evidence-based policy making. We talk about evidence-based programs development. We talk about evidence-based projects by public leaders. So in this game of data, in this game of knowledge, how then do you get leaders in the public space to understand that decisions can no longer be taken for favoritism? They can never be taken for who knows who. It has to be based on evidence, which brings the space of research. And that is where the Moses Kotane Institute plays within the KZN public space. We provide research, we provide advisory in order to assist in the very same space. That the type of leaders that we currently have do require research, they do require information, they do require analyzed information that produces knowledge. So as they are playing in the space of knowledge economy, they do require that the groundwork is done so that when they make decisions, they are able to back it up with evidence, they're able to back it up with knowledge. And we're moving to very fast in the space of knowledge economy, and therefore the how we used to do it cannot be accepted, because how we used to do it is no longer relevant in 2020 and moving forward. And then let's look at what there are two types of leaders within the public space. We have those that are adaptive, and they'll have those that are administrative. And I just spoke now about evidence-based and knowledge-based. How then do you put a leader in the public space in these two columns and look at what is exactly required for each person, for each leader, to thrive and drive innovation within the public space? We have adaptive leader and have administrative leadership. An adaptive leader stimulates innovation ideas. So when you go for your strat plans, when you go for your meetings, when you talk to staff, when you look at monthly reports and you look at projects progress, how do you stimulate an innovation idea? How do you look at all the work that is in front of you and said, yes, this is the work that is in front of me, and this is ideas that are coming through. How then do I ensure as a public leader that I stimulate innovation ideas? When you return back a document with comments, are you able as an administrative leader, as a adaptive leader, to see this is idea that you can take forward? This is the idea, whether it comes from a junior official or it comes from a senior official, but an adaptive leader is able to get the innovation out of these ideas and stimulate it. There are leaders who, when they get ideas, they close the door. They don't want to hear new ideas. It's how we've done it here. That cannot work. The technocrats always speaks of these big things. We are not ready. Is another one. And the killer of all innovation ideas is we don't have budget for it. Therefore, don't even think about it because it won't see the day, the light of the day. So we do need to look at how then do we transform what we already have in public sector as leaders to stimulate innovation ideas, to drive innovation from unit level up until the programs level. Activities support inclusive of diverse skills perspective. And again, it's about understanding that it's no longer a top-down approach when it comes to having decisions, when it comes to having work done in the public space. The issue of interconnectedness and the issues of diversity in terms of skills. We all know that the millennials are coming with a different ball game. and they are fast-paced and they want to get things done and they're tech-savvy. And then you have those that were, we call them born before technology, the BBTs. So when you put those two teams in one as an adaptive leader who understands that we do need the millennials, however, we do need the institutional knowledge that comes with the BBTs, how then do we put them together and ensure that these activities that are done supports innovation, are inclusive in its nature, so that each will be able to produce new ideas that can drive service delivery, ideas that can improve people's lives. Of course, it comes back to change plans, processes, and routines. I mean, government is routine work. I mean, government is about processes. Government is about plans that get monitored and evaluated. How then, within the process of making plans, do we put a space as an adaptive leader to say, even though this is the plan, we can't be very much rigid about how we do things and what is our mandate, but there has to be an ability to change plans, to relook at the processes, to rework processes and routines in order to be adaptive to this new disruptive time that we are on. And then you get the administrative leader, and that's the person who has been there, and that's the person that has been taught the public administration, and they know public admin as it is. You know, you do direct, you do plan, and you're resource driven. Budget availability, plan availability equals delivery, nothing else. Hence, it really stifles the innovation side of things. And then there are clear lines of authority, meaning person A reports to person B, reports to person C. Therefore, there should never be any crisscrossing of lines. And then look at the difference between putting a team of diverse skills together and really working with the top-down approach. That once the instruction is gone, it has to be executed the way I see it as a leader. Even though somebody can come and say, you know, the 2000s are about to enter the work stream, they're going to say, but this is how I think we can do it. I mean, we think we can use social media in this. I think by marketing with paper, perhaps we can reach much audience by using alternatives. And it becomes difficult for an administrative leader to ensure that. So which is mostly where the public sector leaders are. And it really stifles the innovation, because when it comes as an instruction, it's really difficult for anyone to look at the instruction and say, no, but I think this is how we should do it. So it really closes up a space for ideas. And then you move to the last part. We look at integration of systems together, and it's still in a very tight understanding of how innovation works. Therefore, it becomes difficult to change processes and routines. The World Economic Forum has identified 4 types of leaders who will thrive in the 4RR. The first one are social seekers. These are certain individuals that stand out for their ability to do well by doing good. You do well by doing good, doing what is right, doing what we're expected to do. These social superiors consider social initiatives fundamental to their business, and their optimization about creating social impact influences their outlook in several ways. While this looks at leaders within the business sense, but we can actually look at how then do we bring social supers within the public service space, because by its very nature, it's supposed to impact society. By very nature, a public leader is actually a public servant who needs to serve, who needs to ensure that social initiatives fundamental to delivery of services are created with the impact, and they do good, meaning there is competency in there. It means there is no fraud and corruption. It means there is management of funds that drives the business, that drives the work that the public leader does. And then you look at data-driven decision makers. These are C-level executives are overcoming challenges by taking methodological, data-focused approaches to strategic decision making. These data-driven decisives are almost twice as likely to say they are prepared to capitalize on Industry 4.0 opportunities. and their organizations are already reaping the economic benefits of embracing Industry 4.0. In the past year, almost half of such organizations' general annual revenue growth was 5% or more, while only a quarter of other organizations saw such results. If it's showing results within the private sector to be data driven, how much more can the public sector leader, given the capability, given the data, and given the analytics behind it, how much decisions can be made on health, how accurate decisions can be made on budgets, how much decisions can be made, and how accurate can we be in looking at our metric levels and our pass rates, and really be futuristics in our outlook, should we actually embrace the technology as leaders and be innovative about it. And then you have the disruption drivers. I mean, these are the leaders that understand that investment in disruptive innovation sets their organization apart from competitors. I mean, we always speak of, if you do understand that any innovation has a potential to disrupt. And of course, when you start disrupting organization and you set them apart from competitors, as public sector leaders are not really faced with competition. The competition is the actual citizens of the country. The competition is the services that are delivered to the citizens of South Africa. And should there be an implementation of technologies that are driven by innovation in the way that the processes and the systems are put within the public sector, actually the disruptive drivers is what the public sector is actually needed at this point in time to really drive how we used to do things, to really disrupt the way that government happened, to bring about efficiency in government, to bring about agility in how the public sector operates, and at the end of the day, provide services and that are in line with the citizens' demand at half the cost and half the time it will take. I mean, even lesser than half the time it should take for any solutions to be concluded for any other query that a normal citizen should had contact if there is a specific platform for services to be rendered with the communities. And then you're having talented champions. These executives are preparing employees for digital transformation. So talent champions are those that are preparing the government for digital transformation. You have seen digital transformation in pockets within the public sector. However, we do need champions who will stand and say, let government start looking at platforms for interaction with business, platforms for interaction with citizens, platforms that would enable our mundane routine activities to be fast-tracked, to be automated, that will talk to automation, that will talk to interconnectedness. You shouldn't be asking this to that, you shouldn't be calling more than 5 different people to get a certain answer. If you're in South Africa and you need any service in government, you should have a one-stop shop where government provides services. So there are champions, I mean, within the public space that are preparing the public space for digital transformation. But those are the types of leaders that are currently in demand to drive digital transformation. And it can never happen without that talent champion having an innovation, a drive around the idea of change. Because if we can just digitally transform without being innovative in how you do it, there might also be challenges in how exactly are we just automating what we used to do, or are we bringing in innovation to what we used to do? Hence, digital transformation bringing about efficiencies to the system. And in conclusion, how then do we introduce innovation in the public space? I mean, to enhance innovation, performance, and working life. I mean, you're looking at the 4 pillars there. 1, it will be the culture of innovation. We need to instill the culture of innovation from public sector leaders to public servant at large. There has to be an understanding that you are allowed to have ideas, you're allowed to bring ideas to the core, you are allowed to have a space to express your ideas, and ideas are uptaken and they are really looked at and they are implemented. Again, resilience. There has to be a constant understanding that it can never happen overnight. It's going to be a process. The gap between us and the first world is too much, but we are just asked to leapfrog, to literally jump the second and the third IR to the fourth IR, fifth IR, and that's a huge jump. So that resilience is very much important for public sector leaders to actually start introducing, and they will find resistance because change management is not easy. But through that resistance, they would have to be resilient. Of course, we have to look at different behaviors, and there has to be engagement. Engagement with business, engagement with citizens, engagement with government itself, engagement with the employer in this instance, which is government. How then do you bring back that culture of engaging citizens and engaging employees within the public sector in understanding that the challenges that the public sector faces, the challenges that the citizens faces can only be solved if there is robust engagement. However, when it comes to innovation, the challenges on the ground cannot be understood at the office if there is no evidence that comes from there. So the engagement starts from research, starts from primary data, that when you go down there and you understand what the citizens need, to come back and be innovative about it, to come back and perform work that is actually in demand on the ground. But over and above that, as then the public sector leader, for you to be able to introduce innovation, you also have to look at employee-driven improvement and innovation. How do you improve your employees and bring innovation in that? So there has to be a deliberate attempt and a deliberate process to drive improvement and introduce innovation. To look at your structures and to look at your management and to look at processes and ask, how then do we change this? How then can we be innovative about this and allow those ideas to come through? Some would be totally different from what you think. So the process of ideation, the process of design thinking around structures and processes begins to come in order to introduce innovation. And of course, the co-creation, co-created leadership and employee voice, it all comes to looking at solution in a co-creation manner, meaning no one owns solutions. The solutions is a cooperating in a co-created platform where everybody has a voice and everybody can be heard. And at the end of the day, it's all about maintaining jobs, creating teams that works, and at the end of it all, underlining with technology. And with these four, you can start introducing innovation within the public service as a leader, and ensure that the end of each and every, what do they call, financial year, you can look back and say, have I designed teams that are improving? Have I brought in technology that has brought in change and that has brought in innovation? Are the structures and the management and the process that we are using the best that we could potentially be using? And how am I therefore co-creating solutions and co-enabling the environment as a leader? In that way, you will be able to drive digital transformation, be able to drive service delivery, and more than all, deliver in that promise of a better life for all. I thank you. And let me look at the questions and answers that would have come through on the other side. Any questions? I do not seem to have received any questions. I think with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. We will be back next week. Please stay tuned. We will send through the invitations. My name is Bongiwe July. I'm the Manager Innovation at the Moses Kotane Institute. Thank you.